Hey everyone, the Miami Dolphins open phase 3 of the offseason program with the OTAs on Tuesday, May 27th. Jaylen Ramsey making some news, a little bit maybe in a way. Dolphins make a roster move, and to discuss and break it all down, I am joined by joining me, myself, and I to discuss this. So without further ado, as we mentioned, it is phase 3 of the offseason program. The Dolphins are going to start with OTAs, or have started with OTAs on this Tuesday. They will go 3 times this week, 3 times next week. The media will be allowed to watch one OTA practice each week. This week it will be Wednesday, tomorrow. And obviously we'll be back after that takes place to basically share and break down everything we saw, other than some state secrets we are not allowed to divulge. Before they hit the field, the Dolphins made a roster move. They placed cornerback Jason Maitri on injured reserve, signed, or might even say re-signed, Ryan Cooper Jr., who earlier in the offseason had been claimed off waivers from the Seattle Seahawks. As to what happened to Maitri, nature of the injury is unknown. A very educated guess would be he got injured sometime last week during phase 2 when there's some work on the field. Although 7-on-7s, 9-on-7, 11-on-11s are not allowed during phase 2. They are in phase 3. Doesn't mean players are not running, moving around. And obviously he got hurt. This is an injury that occurred at the facility. Otherwise he'd be placed on the non-football injury list. That's the differentiation right there. In any event, Jason Maitri is done for the year unless the Dolphins wind up at some point waiving him injured, in which case he has to miss a certain number of games. It's a complicated formula, but players can come back to their original team if they're waive injured that same season, even though it's pretty rare. As for Ryan Cooper Jr., again, he came out of Oregon State, I want to say, in 2024. Was on the Seattle Seahawks practice squad. They released him in February. The Dolphins claimed him. The Dolphins let him go. If you remember the moves the Dolphins made before the rookie minicamp, when they let go of 4 players, including long snapper Blake Ferguson. Cooper was part of that group. He was gone. Now he's back to join a cornerback group that features a whole lot of young, unproven players, such as Storm Duck, Cam Smith, Ethan Bonner, who I mistakenly left out last time I was running down the cornerbacks. Apologies to Ethan. Isaiah Johnson, who, like Maitri and Storm Duck, was a good-looking rookie free agent in training camp last year at the cornerback position. Rookie 5th-round pick Jason Marshall Jr., rookie free agents Ethan Robinson and B.J. Adams, along with the 2 old guys, comparatively speaking, the Dolphins picked up recently, that being Artie Burns, former 1st-round pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then Kendall Sheffield, who the Dolphins signed after he took part in the rookie minicamp on a tryout basis. We're talking cornerbacks, though. The one name I haven't mentioned is Jaylen Ramsey. The expectation still is that Jaylen Ramsey will be gone from the Dolphin roster sooner rather than later. The key date, as always, has been June 1st because the cap ramifications for the Dolphins are much less severe if they trade him after June 1st than they do before June 1st. We do not have, because there was no media access to the OTAs on Tuesday, a rundown of which players were in attendance and who was not. Remember, this is voluntary. Generally speaking, teams like to have all their guys there anyway. Pretty safe assumption that Jaylen Ramsey wasn't around. He wasn't around last year. He was working out in Tennessee, putting up a YouTube video, actually, where he was going to chronicle his offseason workouts. That stopped after 1 episode. I never saw another one out there. Pretty safe assumption, again, that he was not at DOT on Tuesday. We'll be able to eyeball it ourselves, media members, on Wednesday, whether he's out there. Would be shocked. And then Jaylen Ramsey, in the latest development on social media today, on Twitter specifically, he put 5... And as I commented in my repost, sure, 5 is Jaylen Ramsey's jersey number. You know what else 5 is? It's the number of days left in May. which means June 1st, which means could be the time when he is being traded. Now, is it impossible that it could be related to something else? No, it's not impossible. If you combine that with the Rotten Orange Instagram post on the first night of the draft, the fact that it's pretty clear he's not happy with the situation with the Dolphins, and the Dolphins acknowledged that, and Chris Greer publicly said the team were exploring trade options for him. Again, not a far reach to suggest that that's what he's saying 5 more days before I'm out of here, basically. There was also a report out there that he's bought a house in the Fort Worth area around Dallas, which comes after a report last week from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, who mentioned the Dallas Cowboys among the teams who could be interested or might be interested or are interested, along with the Washington Commanders and the Los Angeles Rams. A report that was shot down pretty strongly by several people, either like media members with connections to the Cowboys, currently covering the Cowboys, have covered the Cowboys, who all said not happening. That's just not true. And somebody pointed out that the Fort Worth is about a 45-minute drive from the Cowboys training facility, which is in Frisco, Texas. Would it be unheard of for somebody to live 45 minutes away from the training facility? Not necessarily. It's generally speaking, I don't know the guys are going to go that far, but just putting it out there, that may not mean anything. This certainly to me is not nearly as significant as him putting a post with 5. So again, for those Dolphin fans who have suggested to try to work it out, make him or make him play on his contract, make him honor his contract. If you remember last year, before he got his new contract, which the Dolphins clearly shouldn't have given him, as stated by myself and others at the time. He remember that hamstring injury, quote unquote injury that he had that kept him out of the lineup for a few days of practice, and how that went away and he was ready for the season opener against Jacksonville. Again, technically the Dolphins absolutely could make him play on the contract or hold out. But there's such a thing as a hold in, and it creates a whole new set of problems if you have a guy, particularly a prominent player like him, with the salary cap number he has, if the dude clearly hasn't made it clear that he does not want to be here. So, again, we're probably a week away at most from this situation being resolved, and it will be resolved with Jaylen Ramsey leaving the Dolphins as far as what they're going to get for him. Again, this purely speculation, difficult to envision that it won't come down to the Dolphins' willingness to absorb some of the salary in terms of getting better draft pick compensation, or it could be a player-for-player deal. But the more the Dolphins are willing to eat of that salary, the better return they're going to get. And this is not something that they're going to do very happily, because no team likes to do that. So, on the topic of contracts, the Dolphins still have 7 of their 8 draft picks signed, all of whom signed before the start of the rookie minicamp. The one exception is second-round pick Jonah, who's not alone among second-round picks who have not signed, as we chronicled on Miami Dolphins on SI.com, which I encourage and ask you very kindly to check out on a regular basis. Free content, and a lot of it every day. Jonah is one of 30 second-round picks who had not signed as of the end of the day yesterday. Do the math. That's 2 of the 32 that have signed in the entire draft. Among the 257 draft picks, there were something along the lines of 57, I believe it was, who had not signed as of the end of the day on Monday. 30 of them were second-round picks. Explanation is pretty simple. The Houston Texans, who are now enemy number 1 of every other team in the NFL, because they gave wide receiver Jaden Higgins, the second pick in the second round, the 34th overall, a fully guaranteed 4-year contract. Again, based on the CBA, all of the contract for rookies are slotted per draft position. Basically, there's not a whole lot to negotiate. That's why you don't see rookie holdouts much anymore. What's to be negotiated are guarantees and then offsets. And an offset, it basically says if my team cuts me before the 4 years and I get signed with somebody else, the players want to double dip, still get paid by their former team and along with their new contract. And the teams obviously don't want that, basically saying whatever you make in your new contract, we're not on the hook for. Now comes this issue of guarantees for second-round picks. After Jaden Higgins became the first second-round pick ever to get a fully guaranteed contract, Carson Schwessinger, I think I'm pronouncing that correct, the 33rd overall pick, first pick in the second round, got a fully guaranteed contract as well from the Cleveland Browns, who, again, going to really make a whole lot of friends around the NFL after the contract they gave Deshaun Watson, but they weren't the first to break that barrier this time. It was Houston. They followed suit. Higgins signed on May 8th. Schwessinger signed on May 9th. Do the math, that's 18 days ago. No other second-round pick has signed. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that agents are telling teams, guess what? They got a fully guaranteed contract. I want a fully guaranteed contract for my client, with the team saying, I don't care what Houston did. That's not how we operate. So now you're at an impasse. What's going to happen? Will teams eventually cave? And now we have a new world order here where all second-round picks are going to get fully guaranteed contracts. Who knows? If you want to look at the long-range view of this, technically the Dolphins hold Savaiinaya's contract rights for a full year. So basically he has no other option. He either signs or he doesn't. If he doesn't sign, he doesn't play and doesn't get paid. And then technically, if he wanted to, he could re-enter the draft in 2026. Dolphins would get nothing out of it. That has happened before. I want to say it happened to the Dolphins. I'd have to double check, but it may have happened to the Dolphins back in the late 1980s. I want to say maybe with Melvin Bratton, the running back from the University of Miami, who had blown out his knee in an Orange Bowl win against Oklahoma, and which obviously killed his market value. And I believe it was either him or Craig Ericson, another former University of Miami player, quarterback. I'll have to double check, and I should have done my research before putting it out there, but it's one of those two as memory serves. So Savaiinaia was out there for the rookie mini camp. Can't tell you for sure he was out there for the offseason program. Attendance is not taken. We weren't out there other than the rookie mini camp. We'll see out there tomorrow. Don't believe it's a situation like Shamar Stewart of the Cincinnati Bengals, who basically is present but not doing anything because he's an unsigned first-round pick. But we'll see. And obviously this is a situation the Dolphins would rather have settled sooner rather than later, but there is a little bit of an impasse there as we speak. And finally, I'm going to close with this. It involves Joey Bosa now with the Buffalo Bills. What's that have to do with the Dolphins? Well, I bring him up because the Dolphins were said to be interested in his services when he was a free agent this offseason after being released after many years with the LA Chargers. Joey Bosa now is out for the rest of the offseason program with a calf injury. Word is supposedly he's going to be ready for the start of training camp, but this kind of follows a pattern with Joey Bosa, which is why all along I was advocating, not that anybody would listen to me, nor should they, but my thought was, why would the Dolphins want that kind of player who's got some mileage on him, who is often injured, could almost say more often than not, and whose production hasn't been good enough to justify getting that kind of injury factor onto the roster again, where the Dolphins already have that injury concerns at the edge defender position with Bradley Chubb and Jaylen Phillips. So that's one of those where here we go again with Joey Bosa. The Dolphins wound up not getting Joey Bosa. Don't know exactly the kind of offer they made him, but it was no major issue that he wound up signing with Buffalo instead of with the Dolphins. This is a pattern with the guy. Again, when he's on his game at 100%, he can be an impactful player, but that's not necessarily been a regular occurrence in recent years. So this is not a great loss from the Dolphins standpoint, as far as I'm concerned. And since we're mentioning edge defenders, based on social media posts, Bradley Chubb has been in the offseason program and working, so he should be good to go. Jaylen Phillips obviously is a question mark in terms of his health, whether he would be ready for the start of training camp. He's one of those guys who more than likely will be there in attendance for the OTAs and the veteran minicamp, which takes place June 10th through the 12th, but likely won't be doing anything, or almost assuredly won't be doing anything. Same as James Daniels coming off an Achilles injury. And I'm going to miss some others here who are coming off injuries. Oh, Tyreek Hill, obviously, with the offseason wrist surgery. But I believe I saw a clip of some Tyreek Hill talking with some folks on YouTube in a golf cart saying he would be there for the OTAs. But he's going to be there in attendance, but logically shouldn't be doing any work. I'm sure he can actually run. If you see him, he's got a wrap around his right wrist. Should not prevent him from running, I would imagine, but catching passes might be a different story. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this abbreviated edition. This was episode 509. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. As mentioned, we will be back here tomorrow to tell you everything we eyeballed at the Open OTA. Reminder, Tuesday evening is Dolphins Collective Night, 8:30 p.m. live on YouTube with Dudley Durong, TD Finstock, Omar Kelly, and myself. And we'll be engaging in our usual foolishness. So that's going to wrap it up for now. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.